Welcome to another episode of Teach Gen Tech. And we are streaming chapter 5 of Learning TypeScript with Josh Goldberg. Yay!
Yay! Chapter 5.
And it's crazy. That means that we've done at least 5 episodes, but they're every other week. Dude, how many have we done? I really should look at this.
I think we repeated one. So is this like episode 6 or something?
I feel like we might have repeated 2 because it took us like a minute to get into the flow of everything.
Yeah.
I don't.
And then did we have like a prep episode before that? So is this like 7 or 8 or something?
I think so. I'm actually looking because actually I think this is 9.
Jeez.
I'm almost tempted to like delete the old ones.
It's not me anymore.
I'll be like, we finally got in the flow. Watch the ones with the flow. And what up, Lex? Yes, pre-rolls. It's yeah.
Yeah, what is going on there? Is that a bug? Is that intentional? Like
I have ads turned off and people still get them. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. So, Lex, I appreciate you still showing up, especially when, Twitch doesn't want to always be our friend. But that is weird.
Yeah. I regret going to the thing that lets you get paid. I get paid like $1 a stream on average, and now people have ads even though they're subbing. I don't want it. I don't want ads. It's not what I mean.
I don't blame you.
Yay, TypeScript.
Yeah, yay, TypeScript. And I guess I should start announcing it to everyone. So I needed to narrow down like my focus on things. And I focus as everybody, I will still have a lot of random stuff on the show. That is not going to go away because that is my pure curiosity. Yet there will be more focus. And to no one's surprise, it's going to be Postgres because that's what I'm learning and I need to do something for work. And I'm actually really curious about it. They have elephants and it's a database. And then we have Redis, which is another relational database, but it's like goes on to, we'll go into that later. And then TypeScript. I'm excited. TypeScript has helped me understand JavaScript better.
Heck yes. Heck yes, it has.
So,
TypeScript makes everything better with JavaScript.
Yeah. And so for all of those who do not know, Josh is the author of, I have to see what I did with it. Oh, yay! Learning TypeScript. And has been coming on for, apparently, this is our 9th episode since probably, I feel like we started streaming in like October, maybe?
Maybe October, maybe November.
Yeah, something like that. And we've gone through many of the chapters and worked through things. And we finally came up with our flow. And remind all of us, because you are a maintainer on ESLint.
TypeScript ESLint. A project that is neither TypeScript nor ESLint.
Okay, so TypeScript ESLint. And can you drop a link to it? Because I feel like people have been curious and I always forget to ask about it. And I'm like, it's important. We need to learn about this stuff. Okay, cool.
The tooling that enables ESLint and Prettier to support TypeScript. The whole naming thing is hard, and this is the best we've got. But it's like a really critical piece of the TypeScript ecosystem. Like the vast majority, like more than 95% of projects that use TypeScript use us. Because if you use ESLint or you use Prettier, that is how those tools that natively only work in JavaScript can support TypeScript code.
That's cool. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've said it. And this is something that I've learned a lot about as been learning live, is people can say things, but without the other knowledge, it never made sense.
Yeah, it's just words, right? Oh, yeah. He does the ESLint thing.
Yeah. That's probably what I told people too. And Lex, you're loving a little TypeScript moment. Is there anything you're looking forward to learning or want to ask Josh before we get started? Just like a random, you can ask him, hey, Josh, you just got volunteered for an AMA. Thanks.
Oh, no.
I will. Well, we can start with this in the meantime.
Features. So you've understood the core concepts of TypeScript. Like you've gotten through
Yes.
that part of it. All that's left now is like various ways that TypeScript represents different things using those core features.
I'm excited. And Lex, you've been working for it for 3 months and now at a basic level. That is good. That is
Awesome.
good. I feel like I'm at I don't know what level. I'm at I'm going to figure it out level. That is where I'm at. I
It'll be a
will
great time.
say for myself, and y'all, I know that I've mentioned this before, this will continue. There will be highlights writing and things like that. That hasn't changed. One thing that is really, really helpful is that we talk about like type annotations or unions and that type of thing. And I'm like, I know what it is, but I don't remember what it is. So to do so, I end up going and getting it and then putting it where I'm relearning it. So I don't have to go back many, many pages again. Because for some reason, to learn the words is not clicking.
Sure.
Ooh. Lex, I feel like we need to hear more about your full stack apps. Like that is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And
+1.
all right. So today we're learning about functions. And I moved the summary up here, which I'm very excited about. So, oh, you guys want to see something cool else that I learned? We can have a follow dot thing. So you can see where I'm moving the cursor. This is just kind of weird, but so we are going to be learning about declaring function parameter types with type annotations, declaring optional parameters, default values, rest parameters, and change type system behavior, function return types with type annotation, functions that don't return a usable value with void type, and then or any value with never type, and then using function overloads to describe varying function call signatures. And half of this chapter really made sense, and then I went, what? And I feel like that is also, so for those who don't know, I also am coming into this not fully understanding just regular JavaScript. So I've never taken a course. I have never like taken a boot camp or anything like that. 99.9% of my learning has been live or me working on my own website or projects, but most of it has been here. Ilian, hello.
Elian, hello.
Yeah, is
Jenn,
it
can I make a
Ilian or
guess?
Elian? Yes, yes.
I heard Dan. I thought I had it right, and then I heard Dan Jutan say it a different way than me. So I apologize. I should have asked in private. I keep forgetting to. Anyway, I want to make a guess of where your feelings are for each of those
Okay.
those list items. Can I?
Yeah, wait. Give me like 2 seconds. Let's highlight the ones that you think I'm having a hard time with. So go
Okay, I
ahead.
think the first three you're fine with. That's my guess.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The next two, so the void type and never type, you're like, okay, this kind of makes sense in isolation. I don't see why I'd use it, or like maybe it doesn't like quite click, but like it's kind of okay. And then the last one, you're just like, what? No, I don't understand. Is that's like what
Um,
a lot of people go through. So that's just like a general common case. Is that yours?
I would say I think it's more of parts of this one. I don't remember which parts because we'll scroll through and find out. And oh, I just looked up. Thank you for the follow stuff. I'm like, what words am I trying to say? And also their name at the same time. It doesn't work. Uh, Medeo. I'm horrible at names, so y'all can make fun of me for that, and also tell me how to say it, and I will try to be better at it. Um, but thank you for the follow. And so I'm pretty sure it is, I think, 'cause I'm also really bad at the names. I think it is these two. Because the for void type and never type, I was like, I doubt I'm ever really going to use these. So like, and they make enough sense that I'm like, meh, okay. I know where to go back to get them, but I didn't like go, I really need to understand this. Oh, I know where it was. but we'll get there. We will get there. We're going to see if I'm right based on my memory.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. So please tell us a little bit about why is this the, like, why did you split out the, the sections? Why is this the first chapter of the section? What was your mindset behind that?
Sure. So to recap, this is the first chapter in the features section of the book. It's core concepts, features, and then what? What did I call the third one? At this point, I forget. I'm a terrible author. Concepts, features, and extra credit. I think we've resolved. This was like a whole discussion.
Usage.
Oh, usage, and then extra credit. That's right.
Yes.
I know what I wrote. It wasn't ChatGPT who wrote it. This came just before that whole thing. Ooh, excuse me. So yeah, the reason why I split that up is in order to really use TypeScript effectively, you really want to understand the core concepts. You don't have to like truly know them completely. Like it's fine to be a little shaky, but like they're really useful. So just going over the core concepts of what's a type system, why did you even want it in the first place, and then how a type system works with objects and unions and narrowing. That's the core of TypeScript. That's the juice. That's what sets it aside from other equivalent type systems.
And I feel like it was a very interesting time because last week was it last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago. I'm looking narrowing. Why am I being blind right now? Oh yeah, it was 3. It's right. I want to do yellow.
Second subsection in 3. Yeah.
Right here. If y'all can see it okay. I feel like yellow is really hard to see on screen. We'll go blue. How about blue? Blue.
Blue.
We talked about narrowing and I figured out what we were talking about, and now I went from any and I'm starting to narrow my life. It's a really weird feeling. It's really weird.
You're widening your knowledge and narrowing your types. It's good. Good.
Yes, that is definitely what is happening. So why functions as the first chapter?
Sure. So we've covered objects. That's like a core part of the thing. And the next thing I generally want to talk about is, if I don't have any specific need, going to be the next most useful thing. And functions are all over the place in JavaScript. The only core concept that happens more often than functions is objects, which is the previous chapter. Additionally, functions show up in a lot of other places. For example, when we cover interfaces, which is like another way of describing object types, there's a difference between how you represent different types of properties or methods that are functions. The difference between a method and a property that happens to be a function. So in order to explain that well, we really want functions first.
Okay. And it was definitely interesting because like we saw how like the type annotations went into this, and we ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole of like talking about variables and stuff, which was very helpful. Thank you. And I just went and added it over here of like type annotations, and this really helped when we were it's I think the second part of this that I did not bring over, but was I like this example of like let rocker be string and rocker equals Joan Jett. So they both equal rocker equals Joan Jett and string equals Joan rocker. Anyway, I liked it. It made more sense that way. And then function parameters, I highlighted that when you're taking it, and I just wanted to verify on this one. Tell us a bit about function parameters before I just totally butcher this, please.
Yeah. Have we covered the difference between a parameter and an argument, the terms?
I don't think so. And it was funny because I was just thinking about that while I was going through this chapter. And I was like, I don't think we did, or I don't know if the book does. Honestly, I don't know.
Oh boy. The book, I don't remember whether I explicitly say this is the difference between them. I'm looking it up now, but it's certainly in the glossary at the very least.
Okay.
Let's see.
Blue.
I'm just scanning through. Anyway, an argument is something you give. Like both. That's how I remember it. An argument is something you give. Like I'm giving my partner an argument or something. So like when you call a function, the argument is the value you're providing, or the arguments are. So like if I say console.log string hello world, string hello world is the argument. Full stop for now. Does that make sense and sound reasonable?
Does it have to be, because when you say give, it makes me think input. Is it something that's input, or is it something that if you just wrote string in the console log, it's fine? Or is it a, you have to like run the program and manually type it?
Here, Lex in the chat is a great idea. Let's give a written example. There we go.
Cool.
Cool. Yes. Function parameters, you zoomed out. I'm also putting something in the chat. In this example, line 2, console.log, this template literal string, singing song, that string is an argument you're providing to console.log. You're giving to console.log.
So this part is an argument.
No. The next line is the argument.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, cool.
It's specifically not the whole line. The string, the template literal string, singing, colon, then the interpolation shenanigan. That string, including the exclamation mark and last tick, is the argument.
Let's go to the highlighter because it likes it better.
Yes, in the chat. Yes, to Lex, PG Lex. So yeah, the thing you've highlighted is the argument. The argument is something you give.
Okay.
Does that make sense now?
Enough. I think I will say arguments and functions are something that are like thinking about annotations and unions. I'm like, they're words. They mean something. Like I understand it when somebody explains it to me, but it takes a little bit to click.
That's okay. So. A couple notes. One, same. Two, no one ever remembers the difference between arguments and parameters unless they work in tooling that works with code ASTs, like the structure of the code the way people like me do. So like all over the place, you're going to see people use the terms interchangeably, which sucks because they're getting it wrong. They're inaccurate, but it's also good to know that like it's totally fine to get it wrong. Like no one cares really. But anyway, I care. And the argument is something you give. The parameter is something that the function declares. So song would be a parameter in this written example.
Oh, I did a partial. I want the whole thing. Yeah, maybe. Good enough. So a parameter is what it calls.
So a parameter is what the function calls the thing. In this case, song.
Okay. I'm going to something else to see if I can get a different
sure.
Example.
Yeah, so, in sing2, first and second are the parameters.
Okay.
By the way, we could just ignore this altogether. Like, as if you don't want to spend time just like exhaustively detailing the difference between parameters and arguments, like you can totally understand this whole chapter without remembering the difference. It's intentionally done like that. But I do like that you're going into this.
I would say that it's something that I appreciate when people come on to the show is a lot of people can notice the nuances that may not be written in something. Ooh, as I throw my pen at myself. And there is context that may be needed that people don't have to begin with. And especially since we talked from the very beginning, many months ago, that I'm not going to be a JavaScript pro. This is something that I may not have asked, but is going to be very helpful. Awesome. And parameter is the value that a function requires to be passed because it's going to use that value somewhere in the function body. Ooh, okay. So
it's a good definition.
Is it only song that is the parameter?
Yes. In this particular function, it takes in exactly one parameter named song.
Stop trying to highlight everything. There we go.
Okay. Alexis is like, yes, nailed it.
I like this. Alexis, where have you been? Like, you just like suddenly showed up in my world and I'm very happy about it. Like, seriously, she was on like the JavaScript Jam, Anthony's like Twitter space. And then like she's in Jacob's Twitter spaces and it makes me really happy. And then she keeps showing up here and I'm like, yes,
Yay.
yes. I like making new friends. Um, okay, cool.
Ooh.
So this is making sense.
Oh, I'll see you in Miami then. Awesome. Shout out React Miami.
Yay!
Little
Yay,
conference
React
happening next week.
Miami.
Wait, Jen, are you going?
Oh, I am not going.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Well, I didn't find out about it till like what, last week. So that's one part. And B, it is the 2 days, like it's what, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday I have to leave for Portugal.
Ooh.
So it would be a little too much because after Portugal, I'm going to Munich. It would just be,
Ooh.
as I have to say in my world, I'm not Dan. Dan, like, is like magic. He's going to like all of these places and going to be gone for a month. And I'm like, dude, me going for a week. And I'm like, man. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to copy and paste this really quick so I don't forget her answer. Okay, whatever. That works. Cool. I dig this. And then I highlighted it down here to see if I understood what it was. And without knowing it, I understood it, even though I couldn't put words into what I was learning. That is one of the hardest parts about learning is being able to
Words.
repeat it back to someone.
Yep.
It
For
might
sure.
make sense to consume it, but to say you re-say it, not so much. And then required parameters. Anything you want to say about this before I talk about a few things?
Yeah, I want to go back actually because we kind of
Oh, sure.
glossed over. I just want to make sure it's solid. So a parameter can receive a type annotation, similar to variables, saying whenever you give me something for this, whenever you give me an argument, it must be that type. If there's no
Mm-hmm.
type annotation, then TypeScript doesn't know what it's going to be in most cases. So any YOLO. Same with a variable that starts off without a type annotation or initial value. But in function sing version 2, later down, we say song is type string. So the parameter song is type string. And anytime you provide or give an argument, that argument must be assignable to string. Because if you give it like a number or something, heavens only knows if the sing function will work with that argument. Does that sound good to you?
That made sense. And I think this is where I get confused later on,
Mm-hmm.
is because it infers different things. Um, so we'll get there.
Sure.
But where we're at right now totally makes sense. And
Awesome.
yes, Lex, uh, where does Theo live? Is he in Atlanta too?
I thought he's
Because
Silicon
Dan's in
Valley. I just
Atlanta,
assumed.
right? I don't actually know where. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm always like, where do people live? I don't know where anybody lives. Okay, so required parameters. This made sense. In the fact that it was saying first is a string, second is a string. And so therefore it was two required parameters. And so I don't know how I keep doing that on my pencil when that pops up. So please, um, yeah. I thought Dan wasn't going to render. So maybe, I don't know. Because I thought he
Yeah,
was
I
going
didn't ask.
to, I can't keep track of everybody. I can barely keep track of myself. I don't know what I'm ever doing. And then, so all of this made sense of like, hey, we only have one thing defined, so it's expected two arguments, but got one. And then we got two, which was okay. We got three of them, and it was like, no, bro, that's too many. And so in this, before we get to the text, I said, if I add a question mark
Mm-hmm.
right here, will
What
this
that
fix
fix?
the error? And creepy. Yes, it would, as an optional parameter in the next one. And optional cannot be first, it can only be the second.
more generally, you can't have any required parameters follow an optional parameter because that wouldn't make sense.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna leave it as that because, like,
Sure.
it works, right?
Yeah. I mean, but what your intuition makes sense. Like what you're going for here is totally reasonable. I'm really, as I was saying before the stream, really excited that like you're getting these intuitive hunches. The question mark means optional. That's a TypeScript thing. And it means that for object types, and it means for function parameters.
And so this is what the optional parameters were saying is that, we have the string as the first one, and then we have the singer with the question mark, and therefore that is why that it is optional. What doesn't make sense, which I don't know where I actually asked this. Let's scroll. Okay, yes. I will ask in the next one and then it'll make sense. But optional parameters totally made sense. We talked about it a lot more in one of the previous streams about what the question mark means. And that was really helpful. So thank you. And then we go into default parameters, which tell us about this one. What were your thoughts here?
I went back and forth whether I wanted to teach default parameters before or after optional parameters. There's a joke somewhere about optionality ordering. I see a default parameter as like the next step up from an optional parameter. Like an optional parameter defaults to undefined if you don't provide an argument. I'll say that again because that's like really good usage of the words and I'm proud of myself. An optional parameter defaults to undefined if you don't provide an argument. Okay. A default parameter lets you customize what that default type is or what that default value is. So like in this rate song function, instead of rating defaulting to undefined, it defaults to 0.
Because we said the rating equals 0.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And that was put right here. Where I got lost and am starting to get lost in this is rating is inferred to be a type of number. Is that because it equals 0? Therefore, it knows it's a number.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think you're lost. I think you're doubtful.
Maybe.
But you know the truth. You're just not sure of it.
Yes. Okay. And then is 5-star says the highest number it can be 5 is that due to the exclamation point? Because in a lower one it's like this one says 100, but it says
wait, hang on a second. That exclamation point has nothing to do with TypeScript. That's inside the string. That's just me being clever and cute with how I console log. That exclamation mark is not syntax code.
Okay, that is good to know. I need to write that down. And only because that is the problem with not knowing the stuff beforehand is you don't always know what is actual and not. So
yeah, we should cover this before going actually, because I use template strings a lot. This backtick string is different from normal like single apostrophe or double apostrophe quote whatever strings. And the only difference is that it's more easy to like shove values into it, like concatenating strings. And that $sign squiggly something squiggly syntax is like string concatenation. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to send a link in the chat for a TypeScript playground real quick. So prompt.
Do you want to share your screen? Because I know we've done that in the past.
I totally forgot we do that. Yeah. That'll be easier. All right, sharing the TypeScript playground tab. So can you see the console log hello world?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's say you have a const first name equals Josh, and you do like const value or const message equals, and now I'm doing the backtick. My name is Josh. And his first name. And it is nice to meet you. And hello. Let's just say shorter message. So on the left is TypeScript, on the right is the equivalent JavaScript. And if we downpile down to like old, oh my God, they switched it on me. Dang it. Well, in theory, This actually means my name is plus first name plus and hello. That's what the string means. These two lines do the exact same thing. And I just use this form, the second one, because it's a little less syntax. Like it's just shorter to type out. Does that make sense?
It does. Can you copy and paste that to me so I can like, I guess I could screenshot it really quick.
Or I could copy and paste the URL in the Twitch.
That works too.
Yeah. So
Yay.
if you run it and then look in the logs, it's my name is Josh and hello. This is called interpolation, which is like a fancy variant of concatenation, which is a fancy way of saying combining strings, like adding strings to each other.
Not language, syntax. And this is do the URL. And it's, what did you call it? What?
This is string interpolation, which is a variant of string concatenation, which is like a way to do string concatenation. String concatenation is combining strings, concatenating.
We'll add that in later. Shows
this is not relevant to functions. Other than that, it's just a thing that I use a lot in this chapter. And
I think that goes to my last part of this, which is that helps if you guys can see what I'm actually doing, huh? Because yeah, I know. This is one problem that I keep doing is like people will have to remind me I'm not sharing my screen. And I'm like, damn it, my bad.
Life is hard.
So right here, I guess I'm going to use a little pointer. You use the backslash. Is it the same or different than that's a
forward slash.
Okay.
And that's another thing that's irrelevant. It's just part of the string.
Okay, this and
oh, sorry, you're talking. That's the vertical pipe.
Yeah, the vertical one.
That's the type union thing.
Okay.
And then in the string, you have the forward slash /5. That's like the exclamation mark. That's just part of the string. That's just like 3 out of 5, cool. Like 3/5.
Cool. Yay.
Yay.
Well, now I have a new follow-up question. If we did a console log on this, why didn't it show 3 out of 5 right here?
It would log 5 out of 5.
So it just won't say. It won't type.
It would say. Well, first of all, you can copy and paste this into the TypeScript playground. Like that's something I'd encourage you to do if you're ever curious what they do. But second of all, I can fast forward to the answer. That second rate song would say, "Set Fire the Rain gets 5 out of 5 stars!" Exclamation mark.
Okay. I think that's where I was getting confused, is I was expecting this to show that, and okay, that totally makes more sense. Yay! Yay! Thank you. Okay, cool.
Yay.
Now on to rest parameters. Which, if I remember, it was basically doing the square brackets to show that it's going to do an array.
Yes. The ... is a JavaScript feature that TypeScript now has to support. If you say that the last parameter in a function has ... before it, that means it's going to be an array of whatever number of arguments people provide. So like you can sing all the songs. We can provide none, or we can provide like 3. And that's okay. Either way, song is an array.
Is there a limit to an array?
Only whatever your runtime environment will allow, which is basically huge, whatever thousands or millions.
I'll still put that.
Good question. I'm looking this up at jobs. Do you have max array size? 4 billion. 4,294,967,295. I will quiz you on that number in 7 months' time, so be sure to memorize.
I'm just going to say this. Runtime, whatever runtime allows. So technically, yes, but probably it's never going to find it.
Billions.
Cool. And that made sense. And oh, this was my fact checking myself that if
Mm-hmm.
I added quotes to this, it would be correct because it would be a string instead of a number. That was
Yep.
exciting notes from the learnings. Okay, return types. Ooh, this was the first part that I got really stuck on. And I also figured out how to put an emoji in. I just figured that out today. I also just figured out today how to highlight and how to make boxes. So we're definitely lots of learning. Um,
Hell yeah.
I am curious, going back to the beginning. Uh, reset parameters, return type. Neither one of us said return types. Neither one of us.
Oh, I said the first three. Like I assumed you'd be okay with return types, or hoped. Projected would be the
Yeah.
right term, because a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
everyone's different. Some large number of, like, I don't know, 30 to 50% of people are fine with the first half, and then the second half is where they start to. But
I
either way,
know. I think return types are just like where, because this is one thing I really enjoy about reading your book is it does definitely build on top of itself.
Mhm.
And that makes it really easy to start learning it. Although when I start to see that I don't get something, I'm like, I can get overall concepts, but it's not going to entirely make sense until I understand this first thing.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
the
really,
beauty and the terribleness of building on yourself. Like, yes, it means that you learn as little as possible at one time, but if you miss something, you're missing the rest, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Um, so could you tell us a bit about return types, please?
Sure. So, um, I will say that for the rest of the book, the, like, building on itself and needing to know prior things, it's there. It's always there in every tome of knowledge, but like it's less so now that we're doing random features instead of
Yay.
concepts. They do build on each other, like there is order, but less so. So this sing songs function, it returns something
Mm-hmm.
always. Like, it'll all, unless it crashes, like unless, like, I don't know, some whatever weird thing happens, songs is undefined somehow, it'll return something. What would you say the type of that returned value to be? And I'll give you a hint. It's one of the types that you copy and pasted on the right.
um, so I think this is where I was starting to get confused because like I see how it's up here. It's talking about that it's a
Ignore that.
number.
That's cheating. I'm asking you a
No, no,
question that's
no.
answered in that line. Don't look at the line. Just intuitively. Like, if I were to tell you, oh, I'm calling sing songs with something and we're storing that result in a variable, what type would that variable be?
I would say a string.
The returned results from sing songs. What type is songs.length if songs is an array?
Oh, if it's length, then it would be a number.
Exactly. This function returns a number because it has one return statement. That returns statement returns something that's typed number.
Oh, and Fakai, yes. Yes. Ah, okay, so this makes sense. So, well, that didn't work very well. And plus, that's not a very easily seen color. Let's try a bright pink, see if it helps. Probably not, but so songs.length is how I would find a number. I just want number. That makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yay.
okay. Before I keep going, I also copy and pasted types because we talked about this earlier. It's what I like to do, copy and paste from past. But as we are learning other things that are not associated with TypeScript, do you know, are types the same in every language or thing? Like for Postgres, would Postgres be learning the same type of types?
I'm honestly glad you prepped me with this question, like, whatever, 45 minutes ago. I'm glad you did. No, everything represents types in a different way. For
Okay.
example, JavaScript and TypeScript, which we'll lump in together, they have things like strings and numbers. A lot of other languages like Java, C#, Python, they have more specific versions of number. They have like ints and floats and doubles and like different ways of representing the concept of a number. This is just how things are. Every language is built for a different set of purposes, and those sets of purposes dictate what design decisions they make. Like, do you have one unified way of representing numbers or two, or do you have like 14? And as a result, it's a little annoying because now everything considers something to be slightly different, like a number in TypeScript. Well, if you just have a number in TypeScript and then Postgres represents things in like ints or floats or whatever, like it's not the same. So yeah, everyone does it slightly differently, but the core concepts are all pretty similar.
I am playing that it's different terms and definitions because like number for the numbers example is in TypeScript is numbers, but you know, as you said, it goes to int in Python, and that does technically they're around the same thing, but they're technically different terms. So therefore, the terms may have similar but different definitions too. So I think this is yes and no. Okay.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. That makes enough sense for that. All right. So,
wait, yeah, let's actually stay on this page for just a little bit. I want to look at this thing, get song at, because every function has one return type, but that return type might be a union. Here we're saying get song at can return either a string or undefined. Does it make sense why that's the case?
I'm going to stare at it for a second.
Sure.
Is it because the string is an array?
Why,
or songs is an array?
Yeah. So there are two possible things this function could return. It could either return songs of index, which is type string as you just alluded to, or it could return undefined, which is undefined. And the reason why is because this is a ternary statement. Have we gone over ternaries? Are you familiar with these things?
I don't think we have.
Cool. Let's how about I share?
Okay.
To go over these things. So a ternary statement is like a shorthand for using.
Can you share your screen real quick, please?
Yes. Cool. So a ternary is saying const result equals if true, or some condition if true, if false. That's how ternaries are structured. It's like if some condition const if true equals array, if false equals oh no. So in this code, we're saying result is either hooray or oh no. It will be hooray if some condition is true, and it will be oh no if some condition is false.
Okay.
It's another way of saying this would be like let result if some condition result equals if true, else result equals if false. These aren't quite the same because this is a let and not a const, but like generally this ternary is like a quick way of writing the if else. Does that seem reasonable?
Yes. And so because of the songs, yes and no.
Okay, so ignoring the function and the song stuff, the reason why that function is string or undefined is because of a ternary. Because here I'm gonna actually start anew here. So first I'll send this particular snippet in the chat. Ternaries makes conditions look pretty strong agree. That's why I use them. So let's say that you have function saying songs or get song at, what's called, which takes a song string and an index number. And we're saying if index less than songs.length, return songs of I or index. Otherwise, return undefined. This is the same as what you saw in the book. It's just using an if instead of a ternary. Does this make sense?
Oh, yes.
Alternately, we could say it's like else return undefined, but there's no need to use an else because we returned on this line. So we can just say if.
Okay, so it's thanks, Lex. That does make sense, and I feel like it's kind of like the other part that you were talking about earlier, the when something is shortened, that
Syntactic
part.
trigger.
It's like another one of those areas that I'm like, oh, it's saying the same thing. It's just the way that I'm seeing it didn't make sense to me, but it's
Yeah.
the same thing. Okay.
Refactoring, syntax sugar, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
So
Thank you.
that's why getSongYat is a function that returns string or undefined. Because in one return statement, it returns a string, and in another possible return statement, it returns undefined. So we don't know what this function returns between those two. It's either string or undefined.
Okay. Okay.
Sound good?
That one is making sense. So here, I'll just add mine back.
Ooh,
and
good synchronization there.
all right. So explicit return types. I did like this because you were like, probably not gonna like run into this often. Sweet. So I still read it. I was like, let me understand. And recursive, I was like,
don't worry about it.
I'll Google it at some point, but that's why I have it highlighted. And then, oh, this is the other question came up in this area. Is a language used inside of a database?
The answer is yes, you probably should use it as little as possible. I'm curious, what is your context for asking this question? Given your interest.
It was the count plus one. So if you had an episode number, it would do a count plus one and automatically add an episode number.
Okay. Yeah, so I believe that's called a procedure. Is that the term you're familiar with?
I haven't gotten there yet, but sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's the concept of an auto incrementing index where like it automatically knows to use the next number or like a unique another thing every time you add something new. You don't have to explicitly say this one's 4, this one's 5. Okay. But then there's also the concept of a procedure in databases where you can have some code embedded in the database that's run on some actions. So yeah, there is stuff like there are languages you can use in a database. There are very limited cases where that's really useful. However, it can be very difficult to work with. So people try to limit the amount of procedures they use. Like there are very specific cases where procedures are awesome and will be great for performance and simplicity, but I don't know enough about them to be able to describe to you when those cases are.
That's really fine and super helpful. And Elian, we were talking about that earlier because Lex got pre-rolls, and I don't know why. I turned it off and everything. I'll verify after this, but I will tag y'all and Twitch and see if we can get an answer. If I might have something clicked wrong. I do not want to just say it's Twitch. I think it is, but and then what did you call it? Because I started procedures.
Procedures, yeah. I think I misphrased. I'm not saying they're always a not great idea. I'm saying there are very specific cases where they're a great idea and many other cases where they're a terrible idea.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I mean, in all seriousness, though, y'all, is I've only had a job for 2 months, and after being jobless for a year, people are like, you can do all this stuff. Like Dan was talking about this, and I'm like, dude, no. I do wish, but yeah. Yes. Okay.
Before we move on, I want to shout out Alexandra Sakura. It's regular conference speaker. Alexandra gave a really good talk at Prisma Day 2022 that I linked in the chat that goes through all sorts of wild and wacky fun stuff you can do with database procedures. I think the talk's in SQL, but like the concepts are applicable in a lot of languages.
Yay. Thank you. I'm going to put that in my notes. Watch video. Cool. Okay, so this was also another thing that it actually does kind of build on top of arrow functions and lambdas, and it was, yeah, like looking at all of this, I need to, I really need to work on like breaking these down, but there are, Sakai said they're a bit surprised you have to do a, oh, now you guys
Should
are like,
TypeScript know that the array might not be big enough? In the Sorry, Jen, would you mind going back to the sing song zat or get song at function, the one we were looking
yes.
at before this stuff? So yeah, a couple of reasons why I used the condition, even though I didn't have to. For starters, TypeScript put the idea of knowing that accessing an element of an array could return undefined behind a flag, because most of the time that's real annoying. Like if every time you access an array of some elements, you had to manually check whether that index was inside the array. I mean, there's some code bases that's legitimately useful and they want that on, but most code bases that would just be like a total pain. And this is an area where TypeScript's type system is actually not completely safe. Because I could say like const names equals an array with like one thing in it, and to do names of 9001, and TypeScript would be like, oh yeah, that exists, that's fine. So this is covered in the arrays chapter, which
Is next.
next. Next,
I think
awesome.
it's next.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
See if I can see it enough because I bookmark them all. Oh, it doesn't get bigger. Why? Let's see. Yes, but arrays is next. I'm like having to like really zoom in on this, but yes, arrays is next.
Yes. Cool. I will also say in just ignoring TypeScript, like in JavaScript in general, accessing elements outside of the size of an array is like a performance paper cut. Like most of the time it's fine. But like if you have a hot code path, meaning a code path that's like run repeatedly over and over again, gets hot, then that like does de-optimize the code path. So it's in a general situation, it's oftentimes better to be safe to check whether it's less than the array's length. But like that's not sound performance advice all the time.
Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
once wrote a game engine, and that was a performance hell. It was a terrible engine. But great question. Thank you for asking.
Oh, something fun to tell all of you too, as I've been learning data, and we had Ben Gamble on the show talking about data basics, and apparently Josh, check your Discord, is that I will be building a Raspberry Pi to understand data more. I'm very excited. This will be sometime next month. But okay, I feel like these two need to have their conversation first.
Go on, please. I'm with you.
When are we gonna stream, Alien? When? I've been like holding off website stuff. Oh, I should show that. If you're still here when we're done with the chapter, I have stuff to show you. Well, to show both of you, but like show everyone because I'm really excited about it. Okay, so lambdas and arrow functions. Those are the same. But this doesn't really make a ton of sense to me.
Okay. This is by the way, this is a JavaScript thing that there are two, really more, but like two main ways of declaring a function. You can do what's called a function declaration, where you say like function, some name, the things we've been seeing before. Mm-hmm. And then you can also do an arrow function, which is, this is like, that's what it is. Fun fact, people used to call them fat arrow syntax. And I will let everyone spend about 2 milliseconds guessing why the term fat arrow syntax is no longer the common term for this core language feature. And I'm glad that we realized, no.
Body shaming. That is funny.
So yeah, arrow functions, sometimes also called lambdas. It's just another way of writing a function. There are like some small differences, but they're not relevant in this book.
Okay. So basically these two for the one right above it for a function declaration, it's basically two ways of saying the same thing.
And again, there are some
This
small
one
differences.
and this one?
Yeah, there is a reason why we have 2 to 3 ways to declare functions in JavaScript, but right now, not relevant. They're just 2 different ways of doing the same thing.
Okay. Mostly.
You could also do const variable equals function something, and that's called a function expression. And that's so nitpicky and nuanced that I didn't even bother including it here.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so is returning a date. This made sense. This wasn't too tricky. Okay, so this one made enough sense. And then you have function types. And this got a little hazy.
Cool. So you have to be able to describe all sorts of things in the type system. If you have a variable that's a string, you can say it's a string. If you have a variable that's an array of things that are number or string or whatever, you have to be able to describe that.
Mm-hmm.
Always. They're objects, they're arrays, all sorts of things. Well, what if you have a variable that stores a function, which is like a really, not all the time, but like a pretty common JavaScript practice.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able now to describe the type of the function. Like if you have a function that takes in another function, like arrays.map, you have to be able to describe the type of the parameter that is a function. And here I give you the way to do that. Does that make sense?
I'm reading it, and I think it does make more sense. I think sometimes, and this is something that I love about your book, and there are a lot of teachers out there that do this too. Like your book is a little more common language, I guess is a way of saying it. Yet there are going to be some nuances that just, even while reading it or looking at it, it just doesn't necessarily click. So I appreciate you going over that one. That one does make a lot more sense.
Cool.
I
on
like.
that note,
Oh,
sorry to interrupt. On that note, I actually got dinged in a couple of Amazon or like elsewhere reviews for not having like everyday language. So like this is something that I'm actively or was actively working on. But this book is incredible. I highly recommend it if you're writing blogs, if you're streaming, if you're doing conference talks, if you're writing a book on writing well by William Zinsser. It's like one of the standard things for writers that I did not know about until like most of the way through writing my book. Put it in the chat. Boop. Great book. Honestly, fantastic book. Even if you just talk to people, it's really good about like clear, understandable, comprehensible language. Don't use like 3 random words that mean the same thing in a row. Keep your sentences short because each sentence is its own idea. So thank you. I tried to do that in the book, but I came in late. There are parts that don't do it as well.
ooh, and it is. Is it? Yay! It is on Audible as well.
Nice.
Yes. So definitely go check it out. I'm excited that it is on Audible as well because, well, that's how I learned. So, yay. Okay. I appreciated that you included the errors. This is why I highlighted them so I see them and come back to them because it made a lot of sense what these errors would have been. And then so we have
wait, sorry, I just don't want to skip over these things because the assignability errors are like they're going to keep coming up in TypeScript no matter what you do. So does this concept of like increasing indentation for each level of specificity in the error jive well with you?
Yeah, well, at least in my visualization of it, because y'all, I did not go on and actually go test it out. Yet it made sense because if I'm looking up here, at least at these ones, it's talking about the level of indentation right here to see where, if it's something that's readable, to know that it's associating with the top one or whatever's above it.
Yes, that is a big part of why they do it that way. Yep, exactly. I love that.
Oh, yeah. Yay. Go, Lex. You got this. Thank you,
Ooh,
Lex.
good luck.
Okay, cool. But yeah, that's I think why I skipped over it, because I was like, this totally made sense, was the indentation part. Um, but a big part of this is because Python really does that a ton. And if you
Mm.
don't have the right indentation, Python breaks. So that actually, yay for learning Python at the same time. For a while, I do think I am going to put that on hold so that way I can focus on narrowing down my what I do. I don't know. Okay. Anything before we go to function type parentheses?
Yep. Thank you for humoring me.
You're very welcome. I appreciate the fact checks. You make sure I know what I'm saying. And I was very excited because Anthony had me explain like the difference between Docker and Kubernetes, and I did a decent job. I was very excited. So
Nice.
as people quiz me on things, checking my understanding, I get better, or I just totally flounder. Um, okay, so function types may be placed anywhere that another type would be used. That includes union types. So I grabbed union types from the previous chapter, and from what I understand is it's just saying that if you use mathematician over here, if I'm using mathematician and it equals math.random, I can use mathematician later on instead of reusing this. And that's what a union is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a
Okay.
union is something that could be either one or another.
So um
This is literally just a note on formatting. It doesn't introduce any new concepts. It's just letting you know there's a difference between this thing and that thing.
okay. The only other than the like what is letting, it's I see an X, is it an extra bracket? Oh no, it goes over there. I wasn't
It's just
seeing where it
parentheses.
closed. Yeah, parentheses. I wasn't seeing where it closed, and it took me a
There you
second. Got it. Okay. Parameter types.
This is where it gets funky.
Okay.
And that, by the way, this is the third way to declare a function. This is called a function expression. It's like a halfway between a function declaration and an arrow function. And honestly, you can ignore that totally and just pretend that all the syntax looks the same to you, and you'd be fine.
Okay. Um. Oh. Okay. I wonder if. What is my question? Is index inferred as a number due to it being after songs and not a string? Um.
That is a built-in method to JavaScript. In JavaScript, the language, the runtime, whatever, every array has, among other things, a for each method, a property you can call. And that for each takes in a function. And it will call the function with three things. It'll call it with each member of the array, or each element of the array. It'll that array's index and then the array itself. Fun fact. That's just a JavaScript thing.
Right. What would I look that up as?
Uh,
Array types?
array for each.
Okay. That blue is not going to be able to be seen.
I'm just
Okay.
showing the I'll put my what I would look up in the chat. Other people's mileage may vary, as they say. All might use different things, but I would look up like array for each on Google, and then the first thing would be MDN for me because I like MDN and they know that, so
Yeah.
they make it good. So it executes a provided function once for each array elements, and the parameters to the function, the first one is a callback that receives element index array for each of the elements.
Okay.
JavaScript.
And thank you, Alien. I think it looks like poop, but that's because I look at my handwriting all the time. But something that I think is really cool is there are now, what is it called? A screen protector that feels like paper. So it doesn't like make me cringe when I'm trying to write. So it's a lot easier to just use, yeah, it's paper-like. So it's really easy to write on the tablet because I'm not getting grossed out from trying to do.
Paper-like.
Yeah.
Wasn't there some other fancy new tablet like Remarkable? I've been looking, or I've seen people talk about it. I've been meaning to look into it.
That is, I personally didn't like Remarkable. I tried it a long time ago. Thank you for the follow. I tried it a long time ago, but a big reason that I didn't like it back then was, I don't know if you could tell, but I need colors in my life. And if I don't have colors, I get really lost on things. Everything is very color coded, me trying to figure life out. It's how I associate things. So without the color, and I don't believe Remarkable did color. From what I remember.
Darn. Oh, well, there go my hopes and dreams.
Okay. So, function type aliases.
Yes.
I don't.
Fun fact, this introduces no new concepts. It just rehashes old ones. Your favorite part of these later chapters. Combines them in new ways.
I was going to say, I think it made sense because I didn't put any notes on it.
I just had an idea.
Yeah.
What if in the book, each section explicitly says what it does with regards to new concepts? Like, does it introduce new concepts and or does it rehash or like recombine old concepts? I feel like that would actually be like kind of cool and useful.
That would be helpful because like if this was like let's say that it said build so it's building on something else new or recap.
My mind just immediately auto-completed to build, deploy, for sell, but that's not correct. But yeah, something like that.
Actually, oh goodness. Sabin? Is that how they say their name? Sabin? At Vercel? I think Sabin's at Vercel. Anyway, I need to have someone from Vercel or Netlify on again to understand the differences between old school hosting and like GoDaddy or HostGator or something and how Vercel does things. So yes, this one made sense. And more return types. Void returns. When in real life would somebody actually use this?
Void returns show up all over the place. The most common example is a console log.
Oh.
It's not just that you're explicitly doing something different. It's that by default, all functions return void unless you add an explicit return to them.
Okay. That helped. Is there a reason you would want it to return void? Like, I guess if it does it, cool, but is there a time you would actually like be like, I need to make sure this does this?
Yeah, it's similar to other cases where you'd want an explicit function return type. You don't have to, unless it's recursive, ignore that. But if you have like a larger function and you just want to make sure that like there's no random like return 0 or something in there, yeah, it can be useful just to make sure. But this is at the level of stylistic preference for the most part.
Sure, we're going to go. I'm using it as an example. We'll see if I remember what it means. Oh, and then up next, note that although JavaScript functions all return undefined by default, if no value is returned, void is not the same as undefined. Void means the return type of a function will be ignored, while undefined is a literal value to be returned.
Mm-hmm. At first, when I first got into TypeScript deep, not just learned it, but started getting really into it, I started to convince myself, why do we have void? It's just say the thing returns undefined. But then when I got even deeper, I realized, no, I was wrong. TypeScript is right. A feeling that a lot of people go through frequently when getting into TypeScript deep. Yeah, there is an actual reason why void is not undefined, because a function can return something and then be used in a location that says ignore this thing's return. So a void is saying, I don't care what you return. You could return whatever you want. I'm not going to touch it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We're going with yes for now. In the future, it may not.
Sure. And this records thing is a good example. Fun fact about JavaScript arrow functions, aka lambdas, they're used because they return whatever that first line is. If you scroll up just a little bit to the for each, if you don't mind. Yeah, so save records. Oh, sorry. Too far.
Too far. Okay, I was like, where did I go?
There's a save records function.
I don't know.
Should be page 71, I think. Yeah, bottom of page 71.
Ah, there we go.
There we go. Cool. So fun fact, a couple of fun facts, actually. For one thing, a question. Are you familiar with the concept that JavaScript arrays have a push method that you can call to push something at the end of the array?
No, but yay.
That's how you add to an array in JavaScript. You can do records equals empty array, records.push something, and that adds to the array. That's a thing. That push method returns a number.
Okay. Wow, I cannot wait. Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it returns a number. It returns the new size of the array, which means that this little arrow function, this little lambda record thingies, records.push record, that function returns a number.
And is that, so would that be considered part of a lambda then?
I would encourage you to use the word arrow expression, because lambda means a totally different thing in server or serverless tech. But yes, it means that this lambda, this records.push, that means because records.push returns a number, that whole function returns a number. Could I share my screen for just a brief moment? Yay! Let me go back to the TypeScript playground. So const version arrow equals records string records.push something, and then you have the same thing version function, which takes in records and returns records.push something. These two do the same thing. Just one is the arrow syntax, the other is a function declaration. Both are records string return number. So note that these functions don't return undefined, they return a number. And if I were to run calling version function on existing, it would return 2 and log 2.
Okay, that makes sense. If you run it again, would it go to 3 or would it keep 2?
Every time I call it, it's a new array. So let's say const my stuff equals this. So version function my stuff. first call. You want to guess what this will run?
I'm hoping to 3, but you know, I would think that it's a first call, second call, it would go to 3, but okay.
Yeah.
But it will always do first call, second call, so it'll always be 2 and 3.
Yeah. Every time I run it, it's new everything. It's
Okay.
I'll just refresh the page to make it a little more clear. Oops. And then at the end, it's console logging my stuff. So at the very end, now my stuff is existing something something.
Okay. Cool.
Does that make sense?
Enough?
Cool. So yeah, so these functions return number. So if I were to provide either of these to a location that says I take in a function that returns undefined, like let's say I did like let this variable is a function that returns undefined. Undefined, let's say, or like input is a string. And then I said like this variable blah 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 equals version either of them, let's say arrow. TypeScript would be mad because I said that this function returns undefined, but the thing I'm providing to it returns number, and number is not the same as undefined.
That makes sense.
Does it make sense why TypeScript's mad in this case?
Yes.
Cool. Void says, I don't give a crap. Just do whatever you want. So void is okay with this because whenever I call this returns void thing, I'm completely ignoring the returns value. It could be undefined, string, number, whatever. I don't give a crap.
So for your example earlier of like if I'm scrolling to the thing, maybe, was that like you might use void to help find if there were zeros somewhere, or like if it gave an error? How would a void do that compared to a undefined? Void will still run them and undefined won't?
Void just says you can give me more permissive things. Undefined says
Okay.
it must be undefined. So like an
Okay.
example of something that takes in void is the like array for each. Array for each says the parameter returns void. I don't care what you give me. You can give me something that returns a number or void or undefined or whatever. I don't care.
Okay. Okay.
You don't have to. This is not going to come up very often. In my experience, people have a lot of trouble understanding the concept of void, but when it comes to using it in code, it just intuitively makes sense. Like, because it's a more permissive thing, if you just like console.log or like array for each, it'll just work. And then you don't have to really memorize like what void does.
Cool. And then, because we talked, did we end up talking about the never returns? I don't think we talked about.
We haven't yet, but this one is fun. This one I actually found easier to understand personally than void. It never returns. It literally never does. You never continue after this function. The end of the line.
So it's the opposite of a loop?
It's an infinite loop. Have you ever seen while true?
Yeah.
It's a while true. Whatever comes after that, you're never getting there. Unless you like break out or something. But like that's not happening.
Okay. That totally makes sense. Function overloads. And I really want to say function overlords, but it's overloads.
I tried to get these out of the book, actually. I went back and forth. I waffled a lot on whether I wanted them in the book. And then towards the end, I was like, there's no one uses this. Like, this is not necessary. It's like the like random edge cases that most people don't hit. But by then it was too late to take it out. So now we're stuck with it.
Okay. Then I'm just going to skip it. And
we can skip it.
Call signature.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Sorry, you triggered me.
Well, that's okay. I don't either. So
Google's learning TypeScript right with us.
Yay.
All right. This is a part of function overloads.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. You're done with this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is one thing that on this PDF version, it's kind of hard to always tell because you can tell like if I can get them in the same area that that's like an H1 and this one's an H2 or something like that. But when they're not next to each other makes it a little hard. So, where did we land? I had a hard time with return types and void and never, and then we kind of skipped the last one.
I didn't think you had that hard of a time with never. Or maybe we just didn't dive deep enough to explore.
No, like
you
never
seemed to
didn't
be
make
happy with
sense.
it.
I was just seeing, like, thinking of what we, from the beginning, what we thought I would have issues with.
Cool. Yay.
So, that being said, I do have a question for you because next is arrays. When you get a second, because I think this would be a fun challenge, is if we went with, does it build upon something? Is it new or is it a
Yeah.
recap? So when you get a second, could you classify them for
Each of the chapters or the whole chapter as a whole?
I would say the headers.
Yeah. Do you want me to send you that now, later
Later
when
time.
we do the stream? Okay.
Yeah, before the stream if possible, but later. Like you have a little, probably wow, you have bigger than 2 weeks. That is verbiage. That is, totally made sense. You have more than 2 weeks because I will be on my way to Munich this time in 2 weeks. I think. What time is it? I'll already be in Munich. I'll probably be going to bed.
Cool.
I don't
got
know.
it. What are you going to Munich for again? You told me this. I forget.
So I'm going to Portugal for Crab Week, which is like our meetup, our offsite for the company. And then I am going to Munich afterwards because my friend Anas is from there and I haven't seen her in forever.
Hey, that's exciting.
So, and if we have time, and let's see, Alien, if you're still here, I'll show everybody, but since it has to do with brutal theme, might want to know. Oh yeah, you are still here. Okay.
Yeah.
I
By the way,
know.
I'm gonna be rude and plug. Elian had a blog post that got retweeted. We published something on Dev 2. So
Nice.
yay. Or
Yay,
the practical
please.
dev. Yay. Shoot, now I'm trying to find the link.
Yeah. Okay. As soon as this loads, I'll be able to show you. Yo, it's not loading though. Miro, are you like seriously not going to be my friend right now? That would be rude.
Rude.
Very rude.
I just got that logo is like an M. Oh my god.
Oh. Huh. It kind of looks like the Monster logo.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
But I mean, there's only so many. Oh.
The Gen Z rebrand of Monster for Silicon Valley.
Okay. See, Yay! Okay. So we have progress. I am slowly, since I am learning Postgres, learning like what I want to do with the website and things. And look, I think I included all the things that are in your theme. I did built with Brutal theme on Astro, and it's using Astro, JavaScript, and TypeScript. And for the back end, I know that I want it to go to a Postgres database, which I believe I need to connect with Prisma because, going over here, these are my handy dandy links that will link to all my projects. They are for Ivan. They are making me like a virtual business card like page. So that'll link there. But the entire reason I'm asking about this is I need to figure out how to see if I could use like Postgres and have 2 different like requirements for like each page. So like if it's on a Teach Gen Tech thing, each page needs to be set up that it knows it needs to have the embed, the episode description, guest contact, any links, and then the transcript. Where for my podcast, it needs a little more. And that's my goal, to continue learning Postgres and finish setting up my webpage.
That sounds great.
And I think it can do that. I
100%.
think it can. I'm like, I think it can. But yeah. So yay. But that's what I want to show you is I'm building this out all on the Brutal theme because I love the Brutal theme. And I will say that when we do stream, Alien, shit, I'm messing it up again. Sorry.
Alien?
Alien.
I think.
Alien? Okay. Alien is that seeing how to customize a few of the other pages would be cool. Because I'm always like, I don't know how to do that part properly, but I'm going to figure this all out. It's going to be great. And if you guys want to see something really fun, because I shared this on my stream last night, this is the life cycle of how to put out a podcast episode on here. It's everything I do for the podcast, which is from guest information to how many calls we have to actually why we have it. And then before we can even put it all out, the video and asset creation. It is fun. This took a really long time, but I'm glad it exists because now I can make it better. But I'm also trying to do that with my website stuff because I think it's important for people to be able to see this side because I didn't really understand it. And as to why I need to make friends with someone at Vercel so I can understand the hosting side of it, which will happen eventually.
Cool.
So yeah, that is what I will be up to later next week and this week. And what cool things do you have going on? Like who streams or what streams are you going to do?
Me or the chat? Or?
Both.
Yeah.
I was technically asking you, but I'm going to ask everybody now.
I know there's at least one person in the chat who streams. Yeah, I've got a busy week actually. Today was fun. I did a game show with people with around my React Miami. That was a whole thing. I won a free React Miami ticket, which I'm really excited and super appreciative of. And I don't know if that came across in the stream. I kind of feel bad, but I don't know who to give it to. So yeah, the next week I'm in New York City actually for the first 2.5 days because there's a Codecademy event and a bunch of people who used to work there are coming over to hang out because we have a very like positive, uplifting, fun, friendly culture. Us alum and the people who's still there. And then I'm in React Miami. Can I actually show a website design, by the way? That's also the Brutal theme vibe. Brutalist.
Never. Yes, of course.
Yay.
It's my favorite theme.
So yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I just like got it approved for the Philly JS Club. It's like our JavaScript meetup, not to be confused with the Philly JS user group, which is different. But yeah, this is the theme that we're going to go with for the Philly JS website. It makes me so happy. It's so silly. For fun, I'm going to be implementing it in Remix, which I've never used beyond like toy demos before.
Nice. Please tell us how it goes.
Yeah, we'll do. I'm excited because it's like the simplest, by far the simplest of the designs that we looked at. Like we had like, I came up with a bunch of different ones. Like this one we're holding in case everyone hates the Brutal one. But like I made a parody of Vercel as a design, sun rays, the whole thing. And I know this one's simple and it just brings me joy.
I do like
we'll fly you over on December 34th. Sounds good. Yeah.
That's funny. Do tell. I almost forgot to ask you for this week. What Twitter drama or TypeScript drama is there going on? Because this really is a big part of it that I always forget to ask. But what I would say, how did you come up with your colors first? I am curious about that because you had a few different colors going on.
Let me show you something. The JavaScript logo.
Oh, I don't think
Fun
I ever
fact.
knew that.
Yeah, it's not black. It's like very dark charcoal. The JavaScript logo is in a font called Nutraface, which is free only for personal use. So this website is in a font that looks very similar to Nutraface. So it's not quite the same, but it's like slightly more bold and like filleted. I don't know if that's what we call ourselves yet. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
But the real exciting thing, it's again not drama. You keep asking for drama, and I'm sad to say I haven't delivered. But
That's okay.
the TypeScript types for React and similar have been slightly inaccurate for quite some time. And the reason why is there needed to be like a new feature in TypeScript around how you describe JSX, like the syntax used in like React, Solid, and so on. And this lovely individual, Sebastian Silberman, got a PR approved and merged that has been open since October. And the next version of TypeScript is going to be much better for describing edge cases of JSX types. So yay.
Yay.
People will be very happy about this.
And anybody else working on anything cool? But before we forget, is your website using the exact same font? Is that to me? It's to you, right? Like
that is to me, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, and then I realized for personal use doesn't mean you can use it on your personal site. It's for like stuff that you keep to yourself. So I switched to from Nutraface to League Spartan, which is like another very similar font. And now I'm working on that personal site. Eventually I'll have it working.
Okay.
It's an Astro.
I feel like, are you all going to be like streaming with Dan this coming week? Because he had so many streams this week. I was like, damn, he is like a powerhouse. Like he is always going.
Isn't Astro like Remix, but like slower? That's what I thought it was, right? Just kidding. Every time he asks, I say something stupider. But I love that. By the way, this is such good market research. Calling Ellie out positively. Ask what your thing is to see what people say it is. Like that's such a good way of learning how people view your thing. I ask people what TypeScript ESLint is, and they have no effing idea, and it's very upsetting.
Oh no, you can cuss on here. I was like, I have a podcast called "Shit You Don't Want to Talk About."
That's right.
Like I will say that since I don't didn't because this was a few months ago, understand enough of like why choose Astro and how to talk about it compared to something else. I had to do like a presentation on it. It was really difficult because it's still a little bit, but at the time it's like, I don't know, what's the difference between that and like starting up something as a React website? I don't know. I don't know. I know there's differences. So yes, there is still learning there to be done.
Still learning. And that's the fun part of it. There's always something else to learn. And you can always feel like you're missing out because you're always missing out. And that's totally good because there's infinite content out there.
Yes. Yay. Yeah. Yes, send those over. So down for that. And yeah, well, that is all I had today. Josh, anything else that you had for us?
No. Just
go buy his book.
Yeah, that's thanks. Buy my book. Sponsor me on GitHub. Sponsors or sponsor TypeScript ESLint. Like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch. I stream. But no, I'm just excited to see your progression. Like you're clearly like instinctively getting things such as the question mark stuff. That's awesome. Really pleased.
I really like it. I think the book is really, I will say it's the theory stuff that I always really struggle with, and also putting words to things that I already figured out how to do, but I didn't know that it actually had a word to go with it or a phrase or whatever. And yay, I will check out this video. And any preferences who we should raid to, y'all? Any requests before I click the raid? Because we got Chris Griffin, we got Ryan. Yeah, I was just about to say we got Ryan. Solid. All right, we will go to Ryan. Please stand by. Y'all will raid when, I don't know why it takes so long. It's like ready to raid in. I'm like, what do you want me to say during this time? It's gonna be
I-
awkward.
I so strongly relate to what you're saying. My first few raids, I was just like, bye. 14 or like 9 seconds later, like, what do you do?
Yes. Well, now I actually get to hit raid. So, okay, bye. And broadcast.